In 2018, white people committed violent crimes against black people almost 60,000 times. In the same year, black people committed violent crimes against black people almost 400,000 times. But y'all just want to talk about this one, not this one. I guess black lives don't really matter unless they're injured or killed by whites, and then the media tells you to be mad about it.
Now again, the mental judo that's happening here of the media telling us to be mad about something. You know, it's important to know the what aboutism that's happening, the distractions that's happening. She goes on to talk about white on black crime. We're not talking about white on black crime. We're discussing systematic racism within the police force. And if you noticed with the graphic that I put up, that number 6 of leading causes of death for African Americans is the use of force by police. That's what we're trying to discuss, not this distraction of white versus black, of race. Again, they're using race to divide. This ain't about race. It's about power. It's about abuse of power. It's about bigots who would protect this abuse of power because it benefits them, the greedy few.
How about the police killings of Kelly Thomas and Duncan Lemp? Haven't heard of them? I'm not surprised.
After considering all of the law and all of the evidence in this case, I'm charging Officer Manuel Ramos with second-degree murder, 1 felony count of second-degree murder. And I'm also charging Officer Ramos with 1 felony count of involuntary manslaughter. If convicted, he faces a maximum sentence of 15 years to life in state prison. Corporal J. Cicinelli is charged with 1 felony count of involuntary manslaughter and 1 felony count of the use of excessive force. If convicted, he faces a maximum sentence of 4 years in state prison.
Do you see what they did to that man's face? I made the graphic small on purpose because it's pretty gruesome. Now, a lot of people may not have heard of this because it happened back in 2012. And 2 officers were charged. So this is not necessarily anything that have to do with what's happening today or the issue of it being ignored. And now that's why people are so upset, because we've constantly pointed out things like that and no one has been charged or even disciplined. But here she is again using race to distract from the issues of today. This is the only reason why she even brought up Kelly Thomas. I knew about Kelly Thomas because it happened right here in California. But for her, it's to use this man's death as an opportunity to justify her bigotry. And as for Duncan Lemp, we don't know why we haven't heard of him. Most likely it's because 3 officers broke into his house and murdered him. There's corruption in police departments. That may be why we have not heard of it, because there's no evidence or information due to maybe stonewalling or this corruption. What we do know is that it sounds eerily familiar like Breonna Taylor.
We hear from Breonna Taylor's mother, who wants charges brought against the police officers who killed her daughter. She tells us that Taylor wanted to be a neonatal nurse, planned to marry her longtime boyfriend, and that the couple had even picked out a baby name before her death.
The 26-year-old from Louisville, Kentucky, was killed after 3 white police officers secured a no-knock search warrant, allowing them to enter her home without warning. The attorney representing Palmer in a wrongful death lawsuit against the police officers says there was a loud banging, then the door flew off the hinges.
Taylor was asleep alongside her boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, who was up watching a movie. Thinking that it was a break-in, Walker fired his licensed handgun, hitting one of the officers in the thigh. The police fire back more than 20 shots, hitting Taylor with at least 8 of them. The officers have yet to be charged for the incident, and Palmer hopes that will change. She also wants the use of no-knock warrants to be restricted and for all officers to wear required body cameras.
Yeah, Doug, we sent an email to LMPD yesterday asking for them to address what looks like errors in the report. Today, I sent a second note, and I know multiple people in the office opened my email, but none of them responded. Tonight, the Taylor family attorney is calling that report an insult. This is the 4-page incident report. 4 pages filled with basic details and numerous boxes left blank. After we saw it, we called Sam Aguiar, the Taylor family attorney. The report details the time and place of the shooting. It identifies Breonna Taylor as a 26-year-old black female. We see the names of the officers, and then we see what appears to be inaccuracies, like this box where an officer checked no under forced entry, and this one identifying injuries. An officer wrote none. We know Breonna Taylor was shot 8 times and died on her apartment floor.
When you read a document like this incident report and you see blatant misrepresentations that even suggest that Breonna Taylor wasn't hurt, that's injustice, that's an insult, and that's just LMPD's way of doing things their own way. And it needs to stop, and it needs to stop now.
Again, the corruption of police departments. This is what we're talking about. They are abusing their power.